Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining me, and I hope you're doing well. It's Sunday afternoon here. I just wanted to come to you with a little reading and hobby update. And first of all, I apologize if you hear a fan in the background and possibly hear people crashing around upstairs. All I can say in my defense is it's very warm here and life happens. So if you're looking for professionalism, you've come to the wrong place. But anyway, when it comes to the reading, I have I have read plenty in the last week. I haven't finished anything. I still have a lot of plates spinning. Plus I had some wheat harvest duties going on. But I'll fill you in on what I did get accomplished in that realm. And as far as my building hobbies go, I did finish something there, so I will be showing you that. So with that out of the way, I'll jump right into the reading. Hopefully this won't take too much of your time. But first of all, continue to chip away at Don Quixote. It's a buddy read with my good friend Patrick from over at the Patrick's Book Reviews channel. I will link that below. It's been a lot of fun reading with him. He's rereading, and he always has these great analytical, insightful things to say. And in my defense, I'm reading it for the first time, but I don't tend to have much of a literary mind anyway, so I'm often just contributing with, yeah, thing happened, then other thing happened. So, yeah, I don't know if I'm pulling my weight, but it's still been a lot of fun. But anyway, I'm just a couple chapters short of finishing what's called Volume 1. I guess Cervantes actually wrote Don Quixote in two parts. The first was published, I believe, in 1605, something like that. And the second was published in 1614, 1615, somewhere in that neighborhood. And my understanding, Patrick can correct me in the comments if I'm off here, is that Cervantes did not intend to continue the first part of the novel that he published. He just kind of left it open-ended, like Don Quixote and Sancho might have had other adventures, but somebody actually took it upon themselves to publish a sequel, and Cervantes didn't care for that, so he went ahead and put out an official follow-up. So, yeah, I'm getting pretty close to that transition, and my understanding is the surreal thing going into that second volume will be that Don Quixote and Sancho, our so-called knight-errant and his faithful squire, are not aware of the original novel and even the quote-unquote false sequel, but everybody else in the setting is. So there's kind of this odd tension going on there. Again, if I'm not getting that correctly, please correct me in the comments, Pat. So, yeah, that should be interesting to see how Cervantes handles that. But as far as my broad impressions of the first part, I've talked to you about the humor and how surprisingly modern it is, and how there were a lot of metafictional elements I wasn't particularly expecting to find in a work this old, but other oddities of the structure I've been surprised by. You certainly get the primary narrative of Don Quixote and Sancho going about their madcap adventures, just various episodes, the people they encounter, the wacky antics they get up to. But they meet a lot of other people along the way and end up hearing a lot of other stories that sometimes have little to nothing to do with the primary plot. So sometimes the thing almost reads like an anthology of short stories. At the same time, Don Quixote, who is a little bit psychiatric, I mean, he believes himself to be a knight errant and often conducts himself in that manner, is actually a pretty intelligent guy and often will wax philosophical about topics such as the virtues of the life of arms versus the life of letters, or there might be a priest who goes on about the positives and negatives of the types of chivalric romances that Cervantes was writing in response to. So sometimes at other points in this quote-unquote novel, you're getting almost a collection of essays in a way. So yeah, it's an odd structure at times, but I'm enjoying it very much. I'm a little undecided. Once I get to the end of the first volume, I might take a pause and read some criticism, but I don't know. I might push on through and just get through the entire work before taking on criticism. I suppose there's something to be said for reading the whole work before approaching any criticism, but I don't know. I'm flighty. I'm undecided. We'll see what happens, but yeah, that's where I'm at with Don Quixote, and that was actually a fair bit of reading. Just the first volume alone is a fair sheaf of pages, so there you go. I also continue with The Black Death by Thomas Asbridge. And I am through the first part, which I believe is entitled Facing the Apocalypse. And that was 4 chapters. I'm getting ready to start on part 2, which is called A World Scourged, I believe. But that first part is primarily the author laying out the primary evidence that exists for just what happened during that initial catastrophe of the Black Death. It covers pretty much the years 1347 through 1353 or so. And the different chapters cover kind of different phases and sometimes different locations. Like the first chapter covers seaports essentially, and how in its very initial stages the plague kind of followed commerce routes. And then in following chapters he talks more about as the plague worked inward and hit major inland cities and eventually worked out to more far-flung places till pretty much the known world of that time. The evidence, he says, is still pretty sparse, but it's thought that even sub-Saharan Africa was impacted. So, yeah, I don't know how to put it, except it must have just been a terrifying hell for everyone who faced that. And the evidence he presents ranges from just personal chronicles, journal type things, to letters, to official documents, a lot of wills. He draws on a lot of wills and testaments because there were a flood of those being made. And this section was very interesting to a point. The only problem with it is it begins to feel a little bit repetitive, because as harrowing as it is, it's pretty much the same story at the end of the day, in whatever location you're talking about and whoever was being impacted, I mean, you get some specificities depending on culture at times. Like, I was particularly interested in how in the Islamic world, where they were prohibited, apparently, don't take my word on this, I'm speaking very generally from a place of not really understanding it properly, but evidently there was a prohibition on acknowledging the plague as communicable, and it was almost considered a great blasphemy or sacrilege or something to actually flee the plague. It was considered chastisement for the sinner and a blessing for the faithful, and yeah, they were supposed to view it in a particular way and basically handle it with a degree of stoicism that didn't necessarily happen in the Christian world. Not that it always happened in the Islamic world, but evidently because of that, the impact on the Islamic world, especially around Cairo, was much more severe than in many places in the Christian world. But like I said, despite some interesting differences like that, at the end of the day, you're basically reading the same story happening over and over again. It just gets kind of repetitive and exhausting. But overall, I continue to enjoy the book, and I look forward to getting into that second part, The World Scourged, because evidently we're going to be getting into how people had to adjust to this new world where a huge number of people are dead, and there are going to be all kinds of new social and economic realities. And after that, the author gets into a more clinical discussion of the plague, more what's been discovered about it via modern scientific investigation, which I'll absolutely love that stuff. So yeah, I absolutely look forward to continuing with that book. So what else have I read? I continue to reread Battle Cry of Freedom with Bill and Peg. Continue to enjoy discussing that with them. And I've kind of neglected my Thomas Ligotti and Stephen King books I'd been working on, my collections of short stories. I don't know, as I'm getting older, there's this voice in my head that's telling me I should only be reading serious material, but at the same time, I'm a silly person. That's not who I want to be, so I don't know. I don't know what's what, so enough said about my reading for the week. There's your update. I'll get on to the building hobby update. This is what I finished. It's a little miniature greenhouse type thing. I'll show it in some more detail and discuss it more at the end of the video. But there it is. Little sneak peek. I guess the overall impression it gives is okay. It might be a little bit precious for me, but I didn't particularly enjoy building it. Like I said, I'll come back and explain all that. And while I'm here, I think my next project, building project, is going to be this puzzle. It's 1,500 pieces. It's kind of a stellar map, but I saw all this stuff with the electromagnetic spectra and the solar system map and all these dimensions here and the galactic diagrams, and I don't know, it just made my little nerdy heart go pitter-pat. So yeah, look forward to working on that next. So, yeah, there's the lion's share of your update video. Like I said, I will be doing a final little portion showing you the greenhouse deal and more detail. But yeah, that'll be it from this angle. So hope you're doing well. Hope you have a great week. Hope to speak with you again soon. So take care. Later days. Okay, there's your little greenhouse. I don't know how well you can see all the little details in there. I think that gives you the idea. But anyway, like I said, overall, I guess it gives an okay impression. When I've showed it to a couple people, they go, "Oh, that's so adorable," and yeah, it's a little precious for my taste. But anyway, what I didn't enjoy while building it was that every one of those little pieces was composed of multiple tiny components that had to painstakingly be assembled with my big sausage fingers. And I didn't mind working with the wooden and plastic components, but a lot of those plants, quote unquote, are made of wire and paper. There's a culprit. And I did not care for working with wire and paper plants at all. It was just constantly tearing this fragile paper and trying to get these wires bent into the right conformations. It just was more trouble than it was worth in the end, in my opinion, but I suppose that's all in the eye of the beholder. Give me an idea, I found myself almost having to force myself to work on the thing, and that's not a good thing when it's supposed to be a hobby that you're using to unwind at the end of the day. So there it is. I guess that's my take on it. Not sure I've really done a very thorough analysis on the thing, but there you go. Guess I've already kind of signed off this video, but again, I hope y'all have a nice week, and I'll speak with you again soon. Take care.
But am I not turtly enough for the Turtle Club?